the term composition literally means putting together. So what is the definition of the composition? Something that is arranged using conscious thoughts. So if you don't have any idea what you're doing, you're not really composing. Composition exists in all forms of art, but I'm gonna focus mainly on visual arts as this is my spiel. So where do we use composition in visual arts? Everywhere, you idiot. First of all, the composition is different from the subject you're trying to portray. So no, if you fill the whole frame with your stupid face, you're not really composing. Alright? You need more elements in it. And maybe let's start with space, because y'all too close. Space is like everywhere, in between objects and especially in between sides. You can find it in all visual arts. It's especially dangerous for graphic designers, because if they fuck this up, then while printing and cutting, some text might be cut, leaving the work unreadable, and that's like literally only job of a poster to be informative. And of course, for painting and drawing, there's no literal space, and you have to create an illusion of space, right? In photography though, you capture the space, which, judging by the pictures y'all post online, I think it's more difficult to do than create space out of nothing. And space can be positive or negative. So the positive space will be your subject, right? And the negative space is all in between the objects and the sides of your work, right? But the space can be also shallow or deep or two-dimensional or three-dimensional. And space helps you define whether it's an open or closed composition. So what else can we consider a part of a composition? Like literally the simplest thing. Got it? It's a line, you fucking idiot. So lines are the simplest thing, but are really, really fucking important though. First of all, lines can direct the viewer into the main subject. And we're trying to use lines for specific things in art. Like, because basically ape brains see line and go brr, you know? These lines on a like picture could be literally phone cables, or it could be more natural. Like, for example, the edge of the sea or something like that. And lines can be also defined through borders of different colors or really deep contrasts. And it's really interesting because horizontal lines make us really calm, like chilled as fuck. Because I think what happens is when we were like a monkey basically with a spear running around, and when you go to like field, you stood up, you saw nothing, just fucking flat lines. And that was like safe, you know? Or like the sea. If it's wavy, just get the fuck out of there. But if it's chilled and horizontal, you can just chill on the beach, you know? Lines can also make you feel small and tiny, because vertical lines can create illusion of height. Diagonal lines are perceived as movement. That's why, for example, Adidas uses the stripes. So when you see the shoe, you think, oh, I'm gonna run faster, subconsciously, because it represents movement. So if you want aggressive composition, then just go with diagonal lines and you'll be good, because it's like really, really expressive. Lines can also help us to define the perspective. There's something called linear perspective. So yeah, lines, perspective, all of the shit's connected. We have curved lines, really harmonious. Like for example, yin yang logo or yin yang symbol. It uses S shape, so you feel harmony in there. And it's great for really harmonious compositions, even in like, let's say, walk pathway, when it's like curved in S or C type of shape. It looks quite interesting, especially with like perspective. And another element of composition, literally made out of lines, is a shape, which is literally one of the first things you learn as a human being. It's to differentiate shapes. So in terms of shapes, I'm just gonna say that triangles are the fucking best in composition. Like, if you can use triangle, just go for it. It's fucking awesome. But what happens if you take form and space and just mush them together. No, it won't be face, it will be a form. Form suggests a three-dimensional object in space, therefore it has volume, length, width, and height, unlike shape, which is two-dimensional. Sometimes form can be used as describing the nature of artwork, like for example, ceramics or sculpture. And forms can be divided into more geometric ones, mathematical ones, which would be like your cylinders, cubes, pyramids, and stuff like that. And also more organic shape, which is like rocks and sand and whatnot. And of course, in drawing and painting, you create an illusion of a form. And you create this illusion through lighting, shadow, tones, and values. So basically, more contrast means more form. Less contrast means flat, less form. And while we at it, let's discuss another element of decomposition, which is value. So value is basically how much light is reflected off of something. So basically means more reflective surface equals more value. So the low value will be like a shadow. So what also has value? Each color there is basically. And color is an important form of a composition as well. But I think I'm gonna make a video on color harmonies so you can use them as well. And also, in order to do great black and white photography, you need to master color. Because we can tell that some black and white pictures weren't thought out in a certain way. Like, for example, that's why black and white pictures that win competitions don't look like your black and white pictures, because they don't use filters. You can specifically turn each color to a specific shade of gray, and that's how good black and white photography works, but I digress. So there are three properties of color: hue, brightness, and value. And hue is the name of the color. That's why you can do those psychedelic effects while playing with the all hue slider. That's why you can turn red from pink all the way to orangey yellow. Brightness / luminance is on the other hand referred to the intensity of color, and luminance is also a way of measuring light in photography thingy. Color has also ability to work within our emotions, given that we can use colors to create a certain mood. It can also be used as tone, light, patterns, textures, to create a form, some symbols, certain harmony, contrasts. You can do a lot of shit with color. Color's great. We got one more important element in composition though: texture. And it refers to perceived surface quality of an artwork. And it can be both 2- and 3-dimensional. Therefore, we have different types of textures. So let's start with my favorite one, physical texture, or impasto in painting and ceramics, which is this. I fucking love this thing. And it's like wood, canvas. Of course, texture can be on anything. So basically most of the things you touch have a certain texture to it. Other type is visual texture, which is just an illusion of having a physical texture. And for example, in photography, you can create more texture in your photo by increasing the grain. And it's called mechanical because people used to do that in darkroom. So it was a mechanical process behind this. Or you can use really strong light to show like sand or texture of something. And also it's in graphic design when you create artificial grain or scratches, because even if you print it, you cannot feel them under your finger, but you can see them. Hence the name visual texture. And texture in all media is genuinely created by the representation of the shape and line. And within those visual textures, we can also find decorative texture, which as the name suggests, is purely for decoration purposes, and it's usually added artificially. Spontaneous texture, this one is focused on process of visual creation of texture. So the marks of texture might also create the shape, hence spontaneous in the name, because these forms can accidentally create a texture. And the other way around, you can get shapes out of textures. And last visual one is mechanical texture, which is, the thing done in darkroom. There's also something called hypertexture, but it's high quality texturing on 3D objects. So the texture in 3D, it's basically indistinguishable from a photo of a texture, for example. Now you know about the elements of the composition, but how about placement of these? Let's talk about principles of organization, which I won't organize. I'll just go through them randomly. Let's start with balance. This basically is a way of combining elements to add a feel of equilibrium or stability to a work of art. Major types are symmetrical and asymmetrical, and gravity can be part of it. After all, we all experience fucking gravity, like all the time, while standing or sitting. But how to get balance though? One of the tools for that is a proportion and scale. And within these tools, we have other tools for scale, like, I don't know, golden ratio, for example. Ever heard of that? Yeah, boring math, some spirals, 1.6 for some reason, but we digressing. Another principle is contrast, which can be used to differentiate elements from each other. What else? Oh yeah, harmonies and shit like that. So harmony is a way of combining similar elements throughout the artwork in order to accent their similarities. And also unity is created by using harmonies similarly to it's basically matching elements in different parts of work to create a unified artwork. But harmony sounds musical, right? We also have another musically sounding thing, which is rhythm. And it can be random, regular, alternating, progressive, flowing. And here I guess patterns would fit too, like multiplication, waves, spirals, fractals, symmetry, and shit like that. Movement is also part of these principles because people use it to create feels and looks of direction and action throughout the work. Alright, we're gonna move to some rules you can actually start using because, oh my fucking god, stop posting shitty pictures online, you people. Like, I get it, your model is pretty, but the picture's not. We are going to focus on photography, obviously, because y'all have cameras. The thing you're watching it on probably has a bunch of them. And for people that know how to paint, you can use them there, obviously, as well. And you can use this because photography kind of stole it 200 years ago from painting. But don't worry, both of these art forms are great though. Knowing one will help you know the other one. But I know some painters that are shitty at photography. But contrary, I've never met a photographer that's like good at painting. Also, of course, these things I've talked about are used to fill the space. And you can also follow them while creating an image. But these were more for planning and knowing what's up. Alright, so first rule is the most important one, which is rule of thirds. It's like 4 stripes dividing the frame by 9 squares. It's called like that because you use 1/3 to 2/3 in the frame. For example, in landscape, you can use 1/3 of a sky to 2/3 of ground, or the other way around. You also have some strong points on these lines crossing each other, which you can use to place important elements in composition. So for example, if you want to take a nice picture of a tree, don't put it in the center, put it on the side, on the fucking line there. See how easy it is? Now turn on this shit in your phone and take pictures with it on. And you have that in your phone, I guarantee you. And in your camera if you own one. And it's probably not in a selfie camera, you idiot. And you can literally apply it while using the other rules. And your pictures will be like a million times better, trust me on that. For real. Start using it and then post online. Alright, another rule is rule of space. Remember space? Yeah, it's so damn important it has its own rule. But in photography, it's leaving some space in front / behind the object to create an illusion of movement. Like if you see cat on the left side walking to the right side of the frame, you will know in what direction the cat is going. It also applies to illustration and advertising, which is supposed to create contextual bubble for the viewer's mind. Like for example, perfume bottles are usually in this world of nothingness that it's color of the bottle, or Marlboro Man living in a world where smoking is so goddamn great, you're going to turn into mainly cowboy man. Rule of odds is named after odd number. With 3 elements, you can create a triangle, which is always great in a photo. 5 is also really interesting to put on screen. It fills your whole space really nicely. Another rule is like shallow depth of field, which is basically the bokeh effect, which is the blur behind stuff in photography. And it's used to emphasize the subject. Now, when you know some of these rules and all, remember that you can use multiple principles or rules at the same time in art. Because in art, there's no constant. And of course, breaking the rules can create tension and unease, yet it can add interest to the picture if added carefully. So in order to break rules, you have to know how to apply them first. And trust me, we can tell that. That's why Pollock's in the museum and your abstract is no different from a monkey with a brush. And yeah, of course, there's a bunch more rules out there, but it's just fucking basics, so you can start composing and thinking how to compose and post better pictures online, god damn it.